Hey everyone and welcome back. Have you ever wondered what really happens after the lights go out? When everyone else has gone home for the night and a building falls silent? Well, for security guards, that's when their shift begins. They're the silent guardians of empty spaces, and sometimes those spaces aren't as empty as they seem. Tonight, we're diving into 3 chilling stories from security guards who experience things they can't explain. And the creepiest part? They have the audio to prove it. So turn down the lights, get comfortable, and let's listen to the sounds of the night shift. Our first story comes from a guard named Alex, who was working the overnight shift at a recently closed down hospital. This place had been a community staple for over 100 years before shutting its doors. As you can imagine, a building that old has a lot of history, a lot of stories soaked into its very walls. Alex's job was simple: patrol the empty corridors, make sure no one was breaking in, and generally keep an eye on the place. Most nights were quiet, almost boring. Just the hum of the old electrical systems and the sound of his own footsteps echoing through the long, dark halls. But one night that changed. He was on the 3rd floor, the old pediatric wing. The place had an unsettling stillness to it. Faded cartoon characters were still painted on the walls. A lonely rocking horse sat in the corner of a common room. It was around 3 a.m., often called the witching hour, when he started hearing something faint. At first, he dismissed it as the wind or the building settling, but it was persistent, a soft, rhythmic sound. He pulled out his phone and started recording, just in case it was something he needed to report. He walked slowly toward the end of the hallway, where the sound seemed to be coming from. As he got closer, he realized what it was. It sounded like a child humming a nursery rhyme. He was completely alone in the building. Every door was locked, and the alarm system was active. There was no way anyone could have gotten in. He froze, listening to the humming echo in the dead silence. Let's play the audio he captured. Asterisk audio clip 1. Faint, childlike humming of a simple tune, slightly distorted with static. Asterisk, creepy, right? You can hear how faint it is, almost like it's coming from nowhere and everywhere at once. Alex said he stood there for what felt like an eternity. He called out, his voice shaking, but got no response. The humming just continued for another minute before fading away completely. He did a full sweep of the floor, checking every single room, every closet. He found nothing, no open windows, no signs of entry. Just empty, dust-covered rooms. He said he never felt truly alone in that hospital again. After that night, every little creak, every shadow made the hair on his arms stand up. He eventually requested a transfer to a different site. Who could blame him? Next up, we have a story from a woman named Maria, a security guard at a large modern corporate office tower. This wasn't some old spooky building. It was all glass and steel, built less than a decade ago. Maria liked the job. It was quiet, she could listen to podcasts, and the hours suited her. Her patrols were straightforward. Walk each of the 20 floors, check the server rooms, and make sure everything was secure. It was on the 14th floor, which housed a high-powered law firm, that things got weird. The firm had these motion-activated lights in their main lobby area. They were a bit sensitive, but usually they only turned on when she walked through. One night, as she was approaching the 14th floor lobby, she saw the lights were already on. This was unusual. Her first thought was a malfunction, or maybe a cleaner missed a spot and was still on the floor. She called out, "Hello? Building security?" Silence. She proceeded cautiously into the brightly lit lobby. As she walked past them, she heard it. A distinct heavy sigh coming from inside the room. It was deep, tired, and sounded like it was right on the other side of the door. Her heart jumped into her throat. She knew for a fact that room was empty. She had checked it just a few hours earlier. Her hand hovered over her radio, ready to call for backup. But her curiosity got the better of her. She took out her phone, hit record, and pressed her ear against the cold wooden door. For a few moments, there was nothing. Then she heard it again, clearer this time. And it wasn't just a sigh. It was a voice muttering. It was too muffled to make out the words, but it was unmistakably a man's voice, speaking in a low, continuous drone. It sounded like someone rehearsing a speech or an argument over and over. Here is the audio she captured. Asterisk audio clip 2. Muffled sound of a deep male voice muttering indistinctly, followed by a clear, heavy sigh. Asterisk what you just heard is what Maria heard through that door. She said it went on for about 2 minutes. The voice would mutter, then sigh, then start muttering again. She was terrified but also fascinated. Who could be in there? Finally, she worked up the courage to try the handle. It was unlocked. She took a deep breath, pushed the door open, and flicked on the lights. The room was immaculate. The long conference table was polished. The chairs were all pushed in perfectly. There was nobody there. The muttering had stopped the instant she opened the door. She checked under the table. Behind the curtains, nothing. The room was empty. The weirdest part? The motion-activated lights in the lobby switched off as she walked out, plunging her back into darkness. It was as if the floor was acknowledging her departure. Our final story tonight is perhaps the most unsettling. It comes from a guard named Ben, who worked security at a remote industrial storage facility. This place was miles from anywhere, surrounded by empty fields. It consisted of several massive warehouses where companies stored everything from documents to heavy machinery. Ben's post was a small guard shack at the main gate, but he had to do hourly patrols around the perimeter of each warehouse. It was a lonely job with only the coyotes for company. One of the warehouses, Building C, always gave him a bad feeling. It was older than the others and was used for storing old decommissioned factory equipment. It was a metal building, so any noise from inside was usually amplified. During a routine patrol around 2 a.m. as he approached Building C, he heard a loud metallic bang from inside. It sounded like a piece of heavy machinery had been dropped. Ben immediately called it in, thinking he had an intruder. His supervisor told him to wait for backup and not to enter alone. So Ben stood outside about 50 feet from the main loading bay door, with his phone recording audio of the building, just in case he could capture any more sounds for the report. For about 10 minutes, it was dead quiet. He was starting to think he'd imagined it. Then a new sound started. It was a slow, rhythmic scraping, a heavy metallic screech, like something massive being dragged across the concrete floor. It was loud, and it was getting closer to the loading bay door where he was standing. He could feel the vibrations slightly through the soles of his boots. He was completely exposed, standing in the middle of a gravel lot with only a flashlight. The scraping sound grew louder and louder until it sounded like it was right on the other side of the thin metal door. Then it stopped. The silence was suddenly deafening. Bain held his breath, his eyes glued to the door. And that's when he heard 3 slow, deliberate knocks. Not on the door. It sounded like they came from high up on the metal wall of the building, about 20 feet up. Let's listen to the final, chilling piece of audio. Asterisk audio clip 3. Sound of slow, heavy metal scraping on concrete, which gets progressively louder, then stops abruptly. A pause followed by 3 loud, distinct metallic bangs. Asterisk, can you imagine hearing that alone in the middle of nowhere? The scraping is one thing, but those 3 knocks at the end are what truly make this terrifying. They sound intentional, deliberate. Backup arrived about 15 minutes later. They went in, weapons drawn, and found absolutely nothing. All the heavy machinery was exactly where it was supposed to be, covered in thick layers of dust. There were no drag marks on the floor, no footprints, nothing to indicate that anything or anyone had been in there. The official report logged it as unexplained structural noise, but Ben knew what he heard. He quit that job the next day and never looked back. And that's all the time we have for tonight. 3 guards, 3 different locations, but one common, terrifying experience, hearing things that simply shouldn't be there. It really makes you think about the unseen world that might exist just beyond our perception. A world that sometimes the lonely guardians of the night get a brief and terrifying glimpse or listen into. What do you think was making those sounds? Let me know in the comments below. Thanks for watching. Stay safe out there and don't forget to like and subscribe for more strange stories. I'll see you in the next video.